Hello and welcome back to Legacy of Leaders, where we interview the brightest and most interesting leaders in the community, and today is no different. I'm your host, Whitney Mincey, joined by very special guest, Mr. Vance Meyer from the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Hi,
Welcome.
How are you? Thank you. It's so good to be here.
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here. This is such an important topic that we're discussing today. So for those that have not heard of NAMI, which is the acronym, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health group, and we focus on peers and supporting each other and educating each other and also advocating for each other, both with each other and with families, but also with the legislatures, both at the state and the federal level.
And that last part is really important.
It is critically important, and we're learning a lot.
I'm sure. It's constantly changing, I know.
It is, yeah.
So how did you get involved with this organization? What's your story?
Yeah, so I'm a corporate executive, a former early retired corporate executive. I had clinical depression for 30 years. I saw therapists all over the country. And in the last handful of years of my career here in Jacksonville, things got very serious for me. And I wound up driving myself to Atlanta and checking myself into a mental health hospital where I was rehabilitated. I began the process of rehabilitation for an entire month. I was very depleted, and even while I had the depression, or even before I had sort of that crisis, I had it inside of me that if I ever get out of this, I'm going to find a way to help other people not feel so lonely about it. You know, particularly in the corporate world, because it's a place where we're all business, and talking about such things can be difficult, even though I think we're getting better at that now.
Right, yeah, and you know, I come from a corporate background as well, and I definitely recall it can feel pretty hopeless in a space where you're one of thousands of employees and you don't really feel like people value you as an individual.
Yeah, I think so, and more so, I think, you know, hope. It's an interesting word that you use, because hope was a word that when I was in the corporate world, I didn't think a lot about that word. It's kind of a mushy word, you know.
Right, yeah.
I thought more about words like trapped, you know, or I'm not going to get out of this. You know, how am I going to get out of this? Nobody else understands how I feel. You know, those kinds of things. But I've since learned that hope is like a real thing, right? It's like it's not a pie in the sky thing, but you don't have to kind of just give yourself over to it like some people would imagine. You know, I describe it as you kind of pry the lid off of it a little bit and just kind of start spooning it out. You know, and you work on hope. You work on having faith in yourself and in your higher power, if that's something you believe in. So yeah, hope is a big deal, and part of what we do at NAMI is to try to help people access hope that they all have inside of them. And we don't do that with experts, we do that with each other.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. So speaking of working with you guys, what does the process look like? You know, if there's someone watching here today that is inspired by the possibility of not feeling hopeless, not feeling trapped, how do they work with you? How do they find you? What's the process look like?
Well, first of all, I really want to clarify that if a person is feeling really hopeless, and they may be on the verge of doing something desperate, like suicide, definitely call the new 988 hotline, which is not just a NAMI thing. It is a public thing, and please go to that resource. Also, we are not a substitute for therapy. You know, we augment therapy, but we also have people who aren't in therapy who come to our groups. Having said all that, if you want to come to NAMI, you can go on to our website, NAMIJax.org, and all of our programming is there. The times are there, the phone numbers are there. You can also call our office. We have a helpline that you can call that's not the same as the 988 line. It's a line where you can get answers to resource questions like, where should I go for this? Where should I go for that?
Yeah, that's great.
Or we have a lot of people who call us who are family members of people. I can't tell you how powerful family members are in the mental health world, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're out speaking different places. Like I am here today.
Right.
We will have people come up to us afterward, very typically mothers or fathers, saying, you know, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this for my kid, and I really feel like I'm behind the curve, and, you know, what can I do? And then they come to a support group with other family members of other people, and they realize they're not behind the curve. In fact, they have something to offer somebody. Everybody that's there is all doing great stuff, but they're all doing different stuff sometimes, right? And so they can learn from each other. And we have trained facilitators who also have experience with mental health, mental illness, and they help keep the discussion positive and on a productive plane.
Yeah. So we're almost out of time here, but I would love to know, as a leader in this space and in the corporate space previously, what advice would you give to other leaders that want to promote positive mental health within their organizations?
Yeah, well, here's the good news, and particularly after COVID, where so many people became exposed to at least episodic depression or anxiety because of that whole crazy mess, right? The corporate world is starting to open up and realize that they have to deal with this issue. They knew it before, but I think the big thing is don't just focus on programs. It's a great thing to do. I don't know of many of the programs that are horrible, you know. So invest in the programs, bolt those on, hire experts. That's awesome. But also look inside at the core processes and culture of the organization. How do we deal with people in their performance appraisals, right? That's a big deal to people's mental health because it touches on a lot of stuff.
Right.
How do we deal with corporate bullies, meaning people who sometimes are really great for the bottom line, but they're horrible on other people? Do we let that slide? What do we do with that, right? A lot of stuff like that is really important. We've always believed that, but now mental health gives us an opportunity to do something serious about it.
Yeah. Well, Vance, thank you so much for being here. Such an important topic, and I'm so glad that your organization exists to help everybody that's out there.
Thank you so much.
Well, if you want to learn more about NAMI and all of the amazing things that Vance and his team are doing, make sure you head over to dailynewsnetwork.com. All of their information will be listed there, and we will see you next time on Legacy of Leaders.